Welcome back, nerds, to another episode of Judging Nerd Culture. I'm Ollie.
And I'm Jess.
So we were gone for a little extra week there. There's a bunch of little projects coming out on the Delta Crypto Production YouTube channel, and I just need a little extra time in order to get all those done properly. Speaking of which, just a quick little thing. On Wednesday the 13th, the Terra Mahia Actual Play podcast will be coming out on any podcast app, really, as well as the YouTube channel. We'll be able to see me and Hannah and David, who are actually playing, go through the game and have a good time. So yeah, that's what's coming out this Wednesday. This should be out enough in advance to give you a little, something to do next time. But that's for the future. For now, we're talking about the brand new movie, Candyman.
Yeah.
And the I think it's not connected to the old ones at all, right?
Yeah, it's like a continuation, sort of.
It is. Oh, see, I did not know. I've never seen Candyman.
Well, in the movie, they, mention...
Well, they mentioned...
part of the plot is based on the old movies, Ollie.
I never watched the movies. I didn't know.
Well, how'd you not know just by watching the movie last night?
Well, they kept talking about cool things from the past, and I understand that could have been the references, but it also just could have been stuff they made up. I don't know.
I told you it was from the old ones.
Fair enough. All I remember was you saying, that's the original guy. I thought it was just like a little homage. I didn't know it was actually connected, okay?
Not all I said. When they sat down in the main character's apartment and her brother was telling the story, I told you, hey, that's the story from the first movies.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yes.
That's not what I heard. Anyways. So yeah, we're talking about the new Candyman movie, the continuation, I guess. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed our time in that in the cinemas. But before we get too far into it, just a quick little thing that I heard the last couple weeks that are kind of nice. If you are a person who likes to do video games on your computer and you want to use Linux because you're a bad person like me, anti-cheats are coming to Linux through Proton and other sources as well, but mostly through Proton. So that's nice. We can start playing some of the games on Linux that you can play on Windows, and that's neat. The other thing is that the Steam Deck is getting more publicity, and they even showed a breakdown. So you can, the Valve is saying that the Steam Deck, they'll have parts available for you to swap them out. So if your joystick breaks, you don't have to send it in and get a new one or a replacement or whatever else. You can just buy the joystick and replace it, which is nice. That's neat. And China did some things like restricting video time for children to like 2 hours a week or something. I didn't pay too much attention because, I don't know, shit happens all the time. And it was just bad. So I ignored it.
Well, yeah. Limiting, it depends on how old the kid is, but limiting TV time is good.
Mm-hmm. I think it was school-age children, so like middle high school kids aren't allowed more than like 2 hours during the weekdays, like across the weekdays of video game interface time.
Well, if they're middle school, high school, then that doesn't make any sense. Like, I know some kids can get pretty addicted to video games and everything. We've heard the horror stories of World of Warcraft and everything. Yeah, I was talking about kids who are like 5 years old. Like, they should be limited. No. But if it's like 15-year-olds, that's kind of weird because, like, yeah, you probably should still limit them a little bit. Like, not let them play it, like, all day, 24/7, like, make them do other things with their life. But how lame and boring and, like, I don't know, is it, like, how would the government even, like record that?
I'm not 100% sure, because again, I read a little
Unless
bit of the
like
article and said, you know,
unless
this
their
is
neighbors were like, hey, hey, my neighbor yesterday let his kid watch TV for 3 hours.
I'm not sure if it is just TV related. I'm not sure if it's just screen time. I think it's very specifically video game time and uh, TikTok or other like phone apps that are really we're genuinely getting like super restricted. Like I think something along the lines of like a total of like 30 minutes you're allowed to be on TikTok for a weekend.
I feel like it should be like per day.
I don't know.
I feel like it should be 30 minutes a day. At least.
I mean, baby, that's just how much you get like before bed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we watch TV and play video games
The rest of
the day.
But yeah, that's just the thing that's happening in China. Real bad news for any child who wants to enjoy any amount of their day. So that sucks for them. And for personal freedoms, but who cares? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Candyman. So, you think you could do a quick breakdown of the plot for us, baby?
Yeah, pretty easily here. So, for decades, the housing projects of Chicago's Cabrini Green was terrorized by a ghost story about a supernatural, hook-handed killer. In present day, an artist begins to explore the macabre history of Candyman, not knowing it would unravel his sanity and unleash a terrifying wave of violence that puts him on a collision course with destiny.
Mm-hmm. Succinct and beautiful, almost like you read it off the Wikipedia.
So it's directed by Nia DaCosta. One of the producers is Jordan Peele, of course, Ian Cooper, and Wynn Rosenfield.
I feel like you don't have to say that Jordan Peele was involved once you watch the movie. You kind of just know.
Yeah, you just kind of know. So Nia DaCosta is also I believe a writer, or at least she worked on the movies Little Woods and Ghost Tape. If anybody knows what that is, because unfortunately I don't. I've so far only know that she directed Candyman.
Yeah, I've never heard of Ghost Tape.
No.
Oh well. Maybe another movie night. Who knows? Along with just the general that plot synopsis, the whole movie is really just about the horrors of institutionalized racism, like all of the movies that Jordan Peele is accompanied with. This one having to do specifically with urbanization and gentrification and sort of the abandonment of Black communities in general, and
the incidents that have happened to people over time that have just, kind of culminated into what is now known as Candyman.
Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed. Obviously the whole movie was good. To be honest, I really enjoyed it. I don't like horror movies, so luckily it wasn't like super duper jump scare every few minutes or anything like that. There was just a few instances of like, there was a guy in the mirror. There's like little bits where I get nervous because I'm bad at scary movies. But I'm sure you weren't.
No, when it like it was a very well made movie and I did enjoy it. It didn't scare me particularly.
No,
there were some gruesome scenes involving his hand, but other than that, like I didn't. If we're talking about like actually like being scary, like stereotypical horror movie, it wasn't like in my mind, it wasn't like super scary.
No, it definitely wasn't. That's what I'm saying. Is like it scared me a little because I'm a big chicken, but it wasn't a very scary movie.
No.
Which I think
it was creepy in some parts, but
very tense at the very least, and not just is someone gonna die here, but just like the character relationships were also very tense and uncomfortable. which was a lot of fun to just watch all of the characters slowly go from maybe they're okay. No, they're kind of crap too. Okay, cool, whatever. Within minutes of introducing them, so that was fun. And so at this point, I'm gonna put a little spoiler warning because might as well just get into some of the more detailed things. This movie came out like 2 days ago, so we talked a little bit. That was the plot, the general themes and whatnot are, like we said, the racial tensions.
Yes.
And overall, not super scary, but very tense, very deliberate pacing. All in all, very good movie.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen it yet, go see it before you finish off. But I just want to talk about a couple of things that are very spoilery. So there's that. The gruesome gore in this movie, all of it is centered personally around that one guy. Because everything, all the murders, did not care about them. They're like, oh, that was unfortunate, whatever. The guy, like the main guy, who like gets transmogrified into the Candyman, everything about him was horrifying. Like the real fucked up arm and face and everything with the honeycomb appearance to his skin. Ugh. That was gross. It looks so cool though. Like it was very cool but disgusting.
Yeah. But that's Candyman's whole thing is bees. Yeah. And candy. But bees.
I'm not sure how those two things really combine.
I've never understood why bees were involved, but
yeah, I mean if they're there.
I haven't really, maybe it tells us why the bees are involved in the first movies. They did mention in this movie, in the 2021 movie, about how the very first man who this maybe from the first movie, this may be who Tony Todd plays, the Daniel Robitaille, which I think that is the very first man who starts this evolution to Candyman. But he falls in love with this daughter of this factory owner back in like 18 something, like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
But she's white, and she gets pregnant, and when her dad finds out, he has some goons kill him and tells him to get creative, and then he is beat, his arm is cut off, they shove a hook in it, they rub his chest in honey and let bees sting him before setting him on fire. So I think maybe that's where the bees come in.
So okay, I guess this is what I'm saying. That all makes sense. Like, yes. The bees come in, he has the hook hand. Like, traditionally speaking, the Candyman character makes no fucking sense. And aesthetically, like, he's got a hook, and there's bees, and whatever the fuck else is going on. But with that backstory, it's like, okay, the honey, he's got a thing with the bees now. He's like their comb, hive, whatever. Yeah, he has a hook in the hand because they decided to give him a fucking weapon. And all this other stuff. His face looks like that because he's burnt. Why the candy? Why is he called Candyman after that?
Well, I think Candyman might come into play in Cabrini Green in like the 1970s, right, when they find a razor blade in a young girl's candy, and they immediately think it's this man named Sherman who has a prosthetic limb because he lost an arm. And he just gives kids candy because he's just, I guess, a sweet old man. And they're like, oh, it's this guy because he's creepy and not white. And so he hides himself away. Okay, let's be honest. He was a little creepy.
Sherman was...
walking around giving little kids candy and then hiding in the walls. Yeah. It's kind of creepy. Like, I understand why he did it. Why he, hid in the walls. Because he was innocent and he didn't want to be found. But it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, to be fair, Sherman was seriously hitting a 10 on the creep scale.
Yeah.
Like, one, maybe it was a different time back in the, 80s, 70s?
70s, 1977.
Yeah. Maybe it was a different time in the 70s, but a grown-ass man should not be handing out candy to random children.
If it's not Halloween, or if they're not his grandchildren...
Don't do it!
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
Who knows? Different times. That was 50 years ago? Fuck.
I don't know.
It was so long ago. But yeah, he was definitely max on the creepometer.
Yes.
But he wasn't the bad guy.
No. The police kill him brutally, because they think it's him, and then he's proven innocent. Everybody in Cabrini Green is like, oh man, like we feel kind of bad now. But then he becomes like basically the new face of Candyman, and they start calling this entity Candyman. And if I say it enough during this podcast, I will be murdered.
Hey, there's no mirrors here. We're good.
But yeah, it's really good. The main actor, I think he does a really good job portraying his character Tony McCoy and slowly turning into Candyman. His actor's name is Yahya Abdul Mateen II, which nice. I think I said that right.
That's a baller name. He was also Mr. Manhattan.
Yes, I think you are correct. He is Mr. Manhattan in Watchmen, and he is also going to be in the 2021 continuation, The Matrix.
Oh, is he the new Morpheus?
I think he's the new Morpheus.
Oh, people are gonna hate him. That poor man. Like, no matter how good he is, he's not gonna be able to live up to.
The cast also includes Teyona Paris, Nathan Stewart Jarrett, Vanessa Estelle Williams, Coleman Domingo, Vanessa Williams. Coleman Domingo is a really cool part of the movie. His name is give me a second. It's not William. Oh God, it is William. William Burke. He runs the laundromat.
This guy, I've seen him in a couple other shows and movies. One of which was Fear the Walking Dead. I think it was the first time I noticed him and I saw him on the TV. But like every time any character he plays is like kind of I don't know, not slick and smooth or whatever. Not every time, but just like something about his personality is like, oh, this guy's seen some shit. He's every character he has is like. Maybe not old, but at least aged in some way.
And like, you talk to him, and he's pretty cool guy or whatever, pretty decent. But he's seen something. There's something deeper.
Yeah, and it's good. He does a great job of these like clearly something is hidden inside them sort of characters. It's great. So. With the introduction of him, I want to talk about sort of like a kind of muddled message. Not muddled on purpose. Yes, on purpose. I think it's purposely like meant to be kind of difficult to parse because this stuff can be. But the major part of the movie, the majority theme is just like, hey, there is a sort of racial violence happening to minority communities, especially black communities, in the form of housing and in the form of police discrimination and all this other stuff that's going on. But there's this like secondary thread with how the characters react to each other. Like early on, you see the white characters deal with I forgot the name of the main guy, Anthony. Deal with Anthony in the weirdest like passive aggressive ways. Like when he talks to the art guy, he's like, hey, you're the black art guy, and like that's what we're looking for. Is like, well, yeah, okay.
He shows him, he's supposed to be opening or have his art at this guy's studio, and during this, big art gala, and he brings him an art piece, and he's like, oh no, this is like something you would have done a few years ago. I want something new and fresh. Play on where you're from. And he was like, I don't know where exactly he said he was from, but
from the south side or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and the curator, art owner, dealer was like, maybe that's not like good enough. And he was like, okay, well, what the heck do you want from me? And it's insinuating he wants Tony McCoy to really dig deep into how racism affects him and how black he is. And it's like, Really?
But the thing is that where he was from wasn't black enough. It has to be more ghetto, more hood.
Yeah.
Because wherever the hell he was from wasn't quite black enough.
And when he does have this art piece that is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's based on Candyman. It's this like mirror, and he opens it, or you can open it, and well, it's an interactive art piece, which is cool.
That's fun.
But on the inside is the art lit up in really cool ways, and he, after talking to this critic who tells him it's overplayed and blah blah blah, everybody already knows about gentrification and woe is the plight of the black people, she walks away, and he's like pretty down because this critic basically just said, hey, your art piece is lame and overdone, nobody cares about these problems anymore.
She also has the best line in the movie, which is just like, this is actually more of a problem, like, this is your people's fault. And he's like, the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean?
But and she tries to save herself, and she says, artists.
Young artists.
Artists.
that was my favorite line in the movie, to be honest.
But then he goes, he walks away, and he talks to his girlfriend and this group of people that she's talking to, and this taller gentleman who is also, I think, an artist who has his art being on display at the gallery, says that it was an interesting idea, but where did he find those paintings? Did he find them at a thrift store or in the garbage? And he was like, yeah, I found them in the studio where I painted them.
You piece of shit.
Yeah.
I think he literally said...
Yeah, I think he does, yeah, because then, this guy is, like, kind of taken aback, and the art dealer is kind of laughing, and he's like, makes a comment on them as well, like, hey, you guys really suck. You wanted me to do something like this, and now you're making fun of it.
Yeah, but that aside, the characters other than the main character being garbage, people aside... There's this. I thought it was really interesting because like a lot of the characters that come off immediately as like are kind of the white ones, and that's kind of part of the show. Like it's part of the fact that this is Tony's life, and everything so far seems to be around the fact that whether he wants it to be or not, all of the things he does have to be related to his blackness. Like even when he tries to just make his own decision, white people tell him, "Well, is that really black enough?" or should black people care about this anymore? This kind of is your own problem, whatever. And it's like his identity of a black man is trying to be controlled by white people. And while that's all happening, he doesn't get the chance to actually like I thought there would be more camaraderie with him and other black characters in the movie. But there wasn't. There was also a strange, like, aggression there where they didn't trust each other, or, like, they... Like, some of them were, like, the one who said that his art looked like he bought it at a thrift store, who were very, I would say, whiteified in their actions or whatever else in terms of the movie itself. And it just was interesting. It was interesting.
I think that comes into play a lot with his girlfriend when she, she's trying to be a curator. She's trying to sell this art. And she finally meets like this really high up woman who lives in New York and like, is very successful, and that's where she wants to be. And she's like, okay, well, how about you come to the museum and we'll talk, and maybe, I can help you climb the ladder, basically. And so she's really excited, and she goes to talk to this woman who essentially just says, you're here because of who you are, like your background and what happened to you, not because of like your skill and stuff. And you can, become a little more like me and a little less, I feel weird talking about this because I'm white. But basically she's, this other curator is saying, become a little less black and just kind of exploit your experiences to better climb the ladder.
Yeah, and it happens multiple times throughout the movie where it's just the Tony is insulted by or hindered by white society and then further restricted by his own people, supposedly. And it's just this constant like getting buffeted back and buffeted back when he should have, at least with one of these groups, feel like he's supported in some way, and he's not. And I thought that was really interesting because like that's definitely a thing. And it's not until the very end of the movie when the girlfriend goes through all sorts of shit because of one of the other characters who's also a black man, that she decides, I'm gonna trust the Candyman. I'm gonna trust the culture of black people who developed here. And like she calls for help through the Candyman, that he kills everyone else and leaves her alive, which has not happened yet, because she was like, hey, I'm gonna ask for my community's actual help and believe in them rather than push away that part of my life and whatever else. And I thought that was lovely.
I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking, oh, she wants to see her boyfriend again. He's a Candyman now. If she says it and he appears, she'll get to see him again. But also maybe he'll kill the cops who are around.
I mean, that too.
I didn't think too deep about it.
I mean, I was just getting a little uppity. I don't know.
But yeah. And then he, in the end, he tells her to just go and tell people, tell the story, tell what's going on. And Tony Todd finally appears, the original Candyman. I'm pretty sure that's his first cameo or like appearance in the movie. It's at the very end.
Yeah, and there might have been some scenes where it was him in the reflections, because one of the gimmicks of Candyman in this version, I'm not sure about the original, is that he exists sort of in the mirrors and in the reflections of things. And there was a few times where like it's hard to see the face, and sometimes it looks a little distorted, and he might have been in one of those, but I'm pretty sure most of those were just Sherman.
Yeah. It's also a thing about like Candyman is Rabbit Eye, but he is also Sherman, and he is also all these men in between who have been unjustly killed and attacked.
Right. It's the collective like anguish and hatred from the black community who have been assaulted and literally beaten down and killed, kind of getting the opportunity to get revenge. And that is the Candyman, which...
Yeah. I read a few reviews that were saying how, like, they thought it was just going to be a stereotypical slasher film, and 5 minutes in, they felt sorry for white people, or, like, they felt like the movie was really kind of bullying white people and cops and making them out to be the bad guy. And it's like somebody else commented on a review who I think they put it really well about how like white people love it when like there were like 30 or so years where Russians were the bad guys in like Sylvester Stallone movies and stuff, and nobody cared about that. Nobody was like, oh, those poor Russians. And there were there's so many other races and peoples who are seen as the bad guys, especially like cowboy movies, Native Americans. They're seen as the bad guys a lot of times. And nobody's, white people aren't like, oh, those poor, natives are being, shown as the bad guy and everything. It's when, they themselves are seen as kind of the bad guy that they, well, I say they, but I mean, I am also white, well, that white people, are like, oh no, we don't like this because this is making us out to be the bad guy. And a lot of times white people only like to see movies in what they perceive as, good and bad and right and wrong and everything. And it's only now that, in the last few years, people have been, putting non-white people as main characters and making, showing their experiences with white people and stuff. And I think it's just, they don't want to see the bad things that they I'm white, I keep saying they, I don't want to be, so no, But it's makes makes us uncomfortable because it's like, we don't want to see the bad things that we have done. We don't want to have to take responsibility for it. So now we're gonna say, oh, why don't you just get over it and whatever. And it's like, no, like, these are their experiences. They're gonna show us those experiences. Like, we've shown our experiences for forever since cinema began. So why not, let people of color show their experiences? Like,
yeah. I also think that comment, that review or whatever, didn't really pay attention because, like I said, like a whole chunk of this movie is the fact that he is up against these issues against both white and black people, because the community that he's supposed to be a part of is choosing to go away from that, like choosing to reject that in order to make their way forward, which in some ways is like, yeah, okay, whatever, that makes sense. But like, that person clearly didn't watch what was going on.
Yeah. They watched the first 5 minutes and then were like, that's the only thing I'm going to learn.
I guess.
I don't know. I had a thought in my brain. What was it? Oh, so another little just thought, I guess, that I have is that even though, seeing your own, it doesn't matter if you're white or not, seeing, the bad things that someone of your same race has done, or seeing, some of the bad things that cops have done, like, you can't just be like, oh, no, let's not talk about that. You still have to, like, take responsibility for it and be like, no, yeah, like, that happens, like, people who, like, okay, cops are not always bad, I guess. They're, there for a reason. But you have to accept that cops are aggressive and that a lot of times they do have, oh God, what's the word? I'm not as, like, eloquent as I'm sure some people would hope. They have prejudices and, like, stereotypes in their mind that, make it so that sometimes they make decisions and choices that aren't exactly right. They hurt people and they kill people, and you have to accept that fact. You can't just say, oh no, we support all cops and, Blue Lives Matter, because in the end, they chose to be a cop. And they, unfortunately, whether they really realize it or not, have been trained in a certain way that makes them see certain groups of people as negative, as the enemy. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, no matter what they want to do as a police officer, like, I'm sure there's plenty of people who join, like, I want to be a part of the community and blah, blah, blah. You're joining an authoritarian group. Like, no matter what, that is what the police force are. They're a group that are meant to control and be the authority of any community. And that automatically puts them at odds against their community. They are the ones telling the community, this is what is wrong, and we're going to control you. So no matter what, it's going to be that sort of tension. And when prejudices do get involved, then that tension becomes far more painful and difficult.
And there are good cops who, really try their best to, do what they think is right. But they might not know that they have hidden biases, or, like, something that they learned when they were a kid that is damaging or toxic. Or, they could be a real good person and then they enter the task force and maybe they, are surrounded by all these people who, believe a certain way. And because, I feel like not all, but a majority of people who want to be cops, they all are gonna, like, think along the same lines. So you're gonna be around those people for so long that you're gonna start to think like them. You're gonna start to play by their rules because they're playing their game.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, talking a lot about cops.
A lot about cops.
They only show up in, like, the last 10 minutes of the movie, but still, it's an important part.
Yeah, and the scenes with the police officers really only are two primary scenes, but the effect that they have on the communities is a major part of the entire movie. So it's important.
Yeah,
it's
and
super
it's
important.
the way they portray them is not surprising. Like even if I had never learned the things I've learned in my life and whatever, if I had seen a group of cops beat up someone after storming a building, I wouldn't be surprised about it. And I think that's kind of sad. Like to see a cop literally beating somebody up so bad and then just being like, "Oh yeah, that's just what happens." I feel like that's really unfortunate to like have that be the norm. I feel like cops should have the ability to resolve a situation without violence. Violence should be the last thing that they have to do. Mm-hmm. But it's usually the first thing they try. So
unfortunately. So, any last words about the movie before we leave?
I don't know. I think it's a really good movie and that a lot of people should watch it. Even people who are, snobby about being white or snobby about cops or something. I think you should watch it. And maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll get angry. Maybe you'll like it. I don't know. But either way, it's a good movie. It has a lot of really good shots, especially when it comes to the mirrors. There's a scene where a group of girls in a high school say Candyman 5 times, and obviously he attacks them because that's the whole point.
That's his gimmick, which I also don't understand that. There's a lot about the lore of Candyman that doesn't.
But they show one of the girls being murdered through this, little makeup mirror compact. There we go. Thanks for knowing more about makeup than me. And I know it was a really cool scene.
Yeah, no, the whole thing was pretty neat. There was a lot of different scenes and shots that were truly just like, ooh, eye candy. Mm-hmm. One of the very first murder scene also, fucking awesome.
It was very good.
It was very great.
The fact that you can only see him through a mirror, it's really cool.
Yeah, it made me constantly looking at every reflective surface in that fucking movie. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, they actually put in like a bunch of little shots of like, oh, he's around the corner, he's doing that. Mm-hmm. More than I expected, because usually a lot of times they don't. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated that.
I feel like maybe that also has to do with the fact that most of the main cast are people of color, and I mean, the threat of something like that happening of Candyman is a lot of times right around the corner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the few times that you see him in the reflective surfaces and he doesn't kill someone is when he's sort of watching over people of color as well, which is a fun little thing that I hadn't noticed until after the movie. But hey, there's that.
Yeah. I mean, saints are usually killed in very brutal ways.
Saint Candyman is what
Saint Rabbitai.
All right, I think that's a good note to end on. Mm-hmm. I hope you guys watched the movie. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And remember to check out whatever's going on the YouTube channel other than this as well. There's going to be some fun stuff. Bye.